when I came into the C-suite world, I was the first sponsor of C-suite Network. And then I came in and then I became a partner in the business. And conditions of satisfaction is a framework that C-suite has used since its founding. And the one piece that I've added on to it that I think is so critical as we think to what success looks like for each of us individually is that it has to be whatever your conditions of satisfaction are. You might have, 2, 3, 5, in that range. You don't want more than that. It gets a little overwhelming. You need to ensure that they're reachable any day, anywhere, and no matter who you're with.
There's a difference between a dream chaser and a dream catcher.
Thanks all for tuning in to Dreamcatchers, where we make things happen. Dreamcatchers was formally launched to unlock the hidden potential in successful, self-motivated individuals who desire to take their life's work to the next level but need support to evolve. We are a collective group of professionals with various backgrounds that use our talents to assist those individuals in realizing their wildest dreams by providing education, inspiration, and direction. This podcast is where we share the lessons we've learned along the way to catching our dreams and give you some context around the how and the why to each approach to put you further ahead on the journey to catching your dream. Are you ready?
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Dreamcatchers podcast. I'm your host, Jerome, and I am the Chief Inspiration Officer at Dreamcatchers. And today we have Tricia Benn in, and I think she's in like Pennsylvania, but sometimes she's in like California and then New York and then Canada. It's going to be a wild ride, ladies and gentlemen. So buckle up. Tricia, how are you? And where are you right now?
I'm great. Thank you, Jerome. And I happen to be in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania today. And it is freezing today. It is a very cool day.
I had 18 on my run this morning. What do you have?
Oh gosh, I think it was the negative numbers this morning, and I have a puppy that I have a new puppy. He's a few months old now, and we went for a walk this morning, and he's learning what it means to heel and not pull me over in the freezing and icy conditions that we have here in the Northeast.
Wow. And so you are further south than you started, right? Because you've got this really cool story. So where did you grow up?
So I grew up in a little place called Guelph, Ontario, which is about an hour northwest of Toronto in Canada.
Wow. So like northwest. Okay. So you told me one time like you had some skates or something. Can we talk about that a little bit?
I did. So I grew up on a hobby farm, which is a really important part of my upbringing because my parents were students. They rented a property where there was a farm and a barn, and they rented out stalls, and that was part of how they paid for their education and having a little person like me. And so I had horses all around me, horse people, farm people. My uncle was my blacksmith. I learned how swearing could be absolutely wonderful because I had a swear bucket that he paid into in large sums. And but it turned out that I loved figure skating. So I actually was a competitive figure skater, and I spent 10 to 12 hours a day, 6 days a week figure skating. I was an ice dancer, and I trained at the Olympic Training Center in Canada. And so that was a big part of my life and how I think to both of those things. Growing up on a farm, and you are absolutely of use when you grow up on a farm. You do whatever needs to be done, and you're not the first thing on the list, right? The first thing on the list is caring for everything that's in your responsibility. And then, of course, the discipline of being a competitive athlete. And so that made a lot of other things in life a lot simpler, I think.
Wow. So I'm looking over your right shoulder and it says something like C-Suite Network. So how does a competitive figure skater go from that to like the C-Suite Network? What is that anyway?
So it's a very interesting path. I actually, at 18 years old, I had a truly terrible injury. I shredded my MCL in my knee, and I had to make the decision of what I wanted to do next. And so I went to university, and ironically, my degrees are in sociology and anthropology, which has absolutely nothing to do with what I do in many ways. in another ways, maybe everything. I don't know. But what I discovered when I got out into the work world, I went out into public affairs consulting and spent a number of years in that space. And what I learned was I loved business. I loved creating successful teams. I loved being able to create great business models that delivered purpose, intention, alignment, connection, and great results that everybody could be proud of. And what I learned was the old business model was when you succeed financially, you get to do whatever you want, which meant you could be an asshole if you wanted. Can I swear on your show, Jerome?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay. You could be an asshole if you wanted because you were making the money. And what I learned was, I could make money. And that meant I could do what I wanted, which was to further empower the success of everyone on my team to move faster, move bigger. And that meant delivering greater results to our clients and partners, which meant that we just got to do more of it. And I got to see that accelerated success. And that perfectly ties in to the brand promise of C-Suite Network.
Wow. And so the brand promise is
accelerated success for executives, owners, investors, and influencers.
And it's really cool to see what you guys have done with that, to see the network and the community that you've cultivated, because I don't think most people who are in these roles actually have somebody to turn to. They usually look to their left and their right and there's nobody there. And then they think about venting downwards and they realize pretty quickly that they can't do that because it has people in this space of uncertainty. They don't want to sow that throughout their organization. So what are some of the challenges that you see as you work with CEOs all across the country? But wait, I before we go there, like you were in the C-suite at some point, right? Like talk about your success in corporate, because I don't want people to think, hey, she just organized this group and like they go hang out. Like, no, Tricia is like a big deal, ladies and gentlemen.
So, here's the thing. We're all big deals in our own little worlds and we're all not. And so, I appreciate you saying that, Jerome. I really do truly look at my experience as what it can be in terms of usefulness for other people. So, for me, I was an executive at 3 enterprise-sized organizations. For me, it was always about how I built those great business models to create success. So I merged businesses, I built businesses from scratch, and created new revenue models and so on. So my last role before coming on to C-Suite Network, and I came in the business and I'm a partner in the business and I lead the business of C-Suite Network. Before that, I was a chief marketing and strategy officer in a $3 billion holding company, and I had P&L responsibilities for one of our New York businesses. So that enterprise-sized experience, as well as the how do you build from the ground up, I love all of it. And I love seeing success. And, what you were talking about in terms of who do we go to, who do we open up to? Ironically, that audience that we serve, executives, owners, investors, influencers, in many ways, they're the most challenged. We're the most challenged because who do we go to? Where do we let the armor off to say, wait a second, I'm not sure I know about this, or how do I do this better, smarter, faster? By the way, I just spent millions of dollars and man, was that a mistake, right? What happens, in fact, in business is we typically end up having to justify what we did, even if the person that served us did a terrible job. And so there's some real challenges there. And being able to hold a space, lead a space where we can succeed faster, it's very near and dear to my heart, and being authentic about it. You don't need to be an asshole to be successful in business. And I always say, the greedy bastards will continue, right? They don't need support. It's those of us that actually care about the impact we're going to have with our successful businesses. We want to be able to give back to our communities. And I know, Jerome, you know all about that with the CEOs, the executives, the business owners that you work with. It's when we genuinely care about the impact we have and succeeding, that success that matters, that we need to be connecting. We need those those ways that we're getting supported to be able to get through the challenges faster and with less wounds,
Less wounds. That part is the important part, right? And
Mhm.
I kind of look at my scars from time to time as like, man, that thing tried to kill you and you overcame it.
Mhm.
But, and it's a big but, right? Sometimes you don't have to actually experience that wound. You don't have to go through that and get scarred. You can learn from other people's scars. And I think
Right.
that's part of being in the community, because you can let off the armor and people hear about what happened. It gives you opportunity to avoid that. Is that
Yeah,
right?
I love thinking about it from the perspective of we were all once teenagers, right? And some of us have teenagers. And so in business, we are no longer teenagers. We actually want to learn from other people's challenges and learnings, right? We don't want to have to go through all the pain. Our teenagers, they need to experience that for themselves, In business, we need to learn as quickly as we can from others in terms of what worked, what didn't work, why did it work or not work, so that we can adjust and use that information to move forward faster. And so that's the importance of having that community to have those open conversations and that trust, that trust group that you have where you can learn and, adapt and then move quickly to where you need to go for your business to succeed.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. So where did this idea come from? Like why do that? I mean, it's in concept, it sounds like a mastermind, but I think it's probably a little bit more than that. So like why do this instead of something else with your talents?
Oh, that is a huge question, Jerome. So I am truly inspired by the real and great things of people and what we dedicate our time to. So for me, I am an absolute believer that as business leaders, so executives, owners, investors, influencers, we have the greatest opportunity to impact people, impact our communities, and serve our communities. There are lots of other organizations that are set up to faith-based organization, governmental organizations, not-for-profits. But in business, we are taught to create models that allow us to expand faster, right? So move faster, have greater reach, etc. So I really truly believe we have an incredible responsibility and an incredible opportunity that other groups don't have to create success that we want to see in the communities we serve. And I love that across the whole of the C-suite platform, our diversity is extensive, which means that in the role that I have now, building the C-suite network and continuing to increase its reach and capacity and impact, I am supporting all great things happening that great business leaders care about and are supporting in their communities across the country and also the globe.
The globe? Wait,
Mhm.
this is international?
It is international, absolutely. And through COVID, it has become truly international, and we're continuing to expand. We do not target or market or advertise into international communities, but it has come to us just through word of mouth. And so I'll be congratulating everybody on a Friday evening at our Celebrates event. And I'll be teasing that I'm drinking a glass of wine, or it might be a water night for me, or whatever it is, and that my colleagues, my leaders in Australia are drinking coffee. I hope they're intravenous drinking coffee at that point, because that's what I do at that time in the morning. So yes, it's great people, whatever it is that we're doing in terms of our businesses, we need to be connected with each other. And it's not some kind of cheesy, this person's really important, so I want to be associated with them. It's truly about how we succeed faster with great people that will take that armor off, that will be real, that are committed to outcomes, not just the appearances or the fame of the places that we sit in as leaders.
The fame of it all. And this is interesting. Okay. So do you think that many people aspire to these titles or positions simply because they like the allure of it all or the looks of it? Or
Frequently, ego gets in the way, period, right? We're human. So frequently, ego does get in the way. And that's why you have actually really, really poor business decisions. And I know everyone listening now, and you and I, Jerome, we all know examples where a decision was made that is absolutely ludicrous. It has nothing to do with the outcomes that were sought after. It has everything to do with how ego played into the scenario. So, does fame play into it? Absolutely. We act not in our own best interest. We act not in the best interest of our constituencies and the people we care about most when that gets in the way. So it's something that we need to be looking at. For me, I look at recognition, I look at awareness as a tool, right? It's not me, it's not Tricia in any way, shape, or form. It truly is about how I convey a message that is important and useful to others to succeed.
wow. And what I've learned about you over the months that we've known each other is that the message matters at a very deep level. You've worked really hard to make sure that it's always personal. It's not some detached, cliche platitude offered to someone, but the fact that they are a person, you see them, you appreciate them, and they matter. So, where did that come from? Because, I mean, there's a lot of people who want to be on your calendar. You were talking to me about your schedule one day, and I just looked at you baffled because I thought I worked a lot, and you're doing way more than me.
Oh my goodness. I am, at first and foremost, I come from an absolute position of honor and gratitude, that I have something useful to give. And so I think in a lot of ways, growing up on that farm, you're taught a lot of really basic skills. Your word matters, delivering matters. Your intention when the animals need to be fed has nothing to do with the outcome of making sure they're fed and cared for. So I think that had a lot to do with it. I also had a very different upbringing from the perspective that my mom went back to school, became a veterinarian. She did her master's in veterinary medicine. I never thought of it as anything, but she obviously was the first woman running an entire division of the university that she was at. And I just thought that was normal. It never occurred to me, I look at all the pictures, it's like all the men and then my mother, on the wall in the building, and it never occurred to me that she was the only woman. It's just, of course she did that. She was incredibly capable. And I thought that women took on the greater financial responsibility, the greater economic responsibility, the global speaking, I mean, literally, you name it. I thought that was the case. And my grandmother, her mother, started her own business, had her own money. And, one of my keynotes, I speak about, you always have $20 in your wallet. And I promise you, I have $20 in my wallet right now, hopefully a little bit more actually. But I always have money in my wallet. My grandmother said, you need to have $20 in your wallet. And really, truly, it only occurred to me in my 40s how much of a political statement that was. I mean, when I was 5 years old, I thought, amazing, I get lots of candy. But I had more learnings as I went along, independence, being able to do what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. And then as a woman, my goodness, what a political statement for a woman of that era to say a woman should always have $20 in her pocket.
Why is that a political statement, though? I've got two little girls, and I want them to have all the things and all the opportunities. So I don't get it.
So that was an incredibly political statement, because in those days, women couldn't even own their own bank accounts. They had no control over money. They had to ask their husband's permission to spend money, have access to credit, anything. And so for the idea in those days of a woman having political or economic independence, it's really extraordinary. And, even to this day, there are scenarios where you just want to shake your head and think, how is that even possible? In fact, Jerome, with daughters, the idea of parity with what's happened with the Great Resignation, they're now predicting it's 208 years until you can look at your daughters in the eyes and say, you will be paid equally for your skills and production to the little boy sitting next to you.
Whoa,
And
whoa, 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 whoa.
208 years.
What are you talking about? Why
Yeah.
would they not be paid the same?
So good. I mean, great question. And gosh almighty, I wish I wish it was as insane to everyone as that sounds. So I'm 50 now, and I've always been in business, and I was the youngest executive in the enterprise-sized organization I was with back at 31, 32 years old. And the fact of the matter is there are really significant discrepancies between the compensation of men and women in the workplace. And my age grouping was the age grouping where education became equal. So the idea was that by the time we got to my age, for example, we'd have parity in the boardroom, we'd have parity in the corner offices and so on. And obviously that's not even remotely close to the case. So, it's one of those things where there's definitely a lot of work to be done, and a resetting in terms of what's important, what we value, and not forcing our young women, little women like yours. I have an 11 and 16-year-old, to make choices they don't need to make. With men, being married, having children is a sign of stability, right? It's a sign of security, of seriousness, of legitimacy. For women, it's like a choice not to succeed. And I fundamentally, entirely disagree with that.
Whoa. You're blowing my mind right now. Is it just the establishment, or is it because women are less likely to negotiate? Like, why are we still here? Not how did we get here, but why are we still here, and what can we do as business owners, right? The majority of the folks that listen to this podcast are either business owners or, they have ambitions to be business owners, but they're probably in the machine, they're probably
Right.
at a large organization.
Mhm.
And it's funny you bring this up, Tricia, because I don't want to toot my own horn, but I remember in my last role where there was a disparity between two people doing the same job on our team.
Mhm.
And I noticed it. And there was about a $10,000 difference on a $50,000 salary. And they said, we will balance this.
Mhm. That's incredible, Jerome. I mean, doing that's huge, right? That creates awareness around that for all of the decision makers you had to influence to be able to make that call and to have that instituted. So every little thing we do matters. And that's something that's so important. Frequently we're told we don't matter, right? I mean, just give up. The problem's too big. And I, again, do not agree with that. Every little step we can take is a step forward. And even if it doesn't have the outcome we wanted, it helps us to know, okay, got that information. Now, how do I move forward from there? So, in terms of the challenges, what I'm a huge believer in is it's not about education, clearly, right? It's
Yeah.
not about expertise or excellence or capability, because we have tremendous numbers. I mean, and by the way, we're using women, but if you look at any marginalized or underrepresented group, right? If you look at Black men, Black women, and then you could just continue to extend beyond that: disability, LGBTQ, and so on and so on and so on. If you look at underrepresented groups, the challenge is not about skill set. It's not certainly about education. It's really, truly, I think, a couple of things. One, especially, is the enmeshment into trusted communities that are making those decisions. So it's not about skill set. It's about being trusted, having relationships where you get invited to be part of those boards, where you get invited to be considered for those corner office positions. So the enmeshment into other networks and communities is absolutely critical. Again, with C-suite, I love that because we're bringing in all diverse communities, I'm so excited about some of the progress we've made, even since speaking to you last, Jerome. We've just brought on a whole new executive women's network, Leadership Global. I've got all kinds of other groups that I'm in conversation with to bring into the C-suite platform, because that enmeshment and extension of trust across different groupings, whether it's regional, demographic, or any other thing that makes us different or potentially divided from each other, separated from each other, that's a block to be able to get to those highest level positions. And I want to remove that as much as possible. I want to create those relationships where that extension can be given.
What's up, tribe? It's your host, Jerome. I just want to let you know that we put together a free 15-point checklist for exiting the matrix. Jump on over to dreamshouldbereal.com in order to pick your free copy up. Let's get back to it. A lot of people's network is based on who they're in proximity to. Mm-hmm. And you're saying
mm-hmm.
You're saying that we have to be intentional about the relationships that we build.
Yes. Now, here's the other piece I think is really important, is creating empathy. So I think frequently we make enemies out of people. You're this, you're privileged, we can go through the litany, instead of creating an empathy that opens the door to understanding. And I think, we try to yell at people what they should think instead of inviting questions. Why? Why do you think that? Why did it work that way? Why are you challenged with bringing somebody forward like this? Creating understanding is critical, but that empathy piece is something I've been really thinking a great deal about lately. If we look at any individual person, we all have something where we felt marginalized, where we were judged unfairly, where we didn't get an opportunity that somebody else was given and it wasn't right. And we knew it, right? We were put on the other side. And so if we can tap into that with whoever that might be, I think we make a lot more territory and gain a lot more territory. And that's why I keep coming back to that term, enmeshment. So we create those relationships, that trust, to be able to bring those that we love and trust that don't look exactly like myself, right? Like, don't look like you, don't look like me, that I can extend beyond just, what I have in that immediate proximity.
Wow. So wait, are you suggesting that we immediately trust those who look like us?
But we have far more opportunity. So first of all, sociologically, yes, that is true. I mean, scientifically, that's true, right? There are bias research, there's bias studies all over the place that would prove that is true. Having said that, I think that there is opportunity where we can extend that trust to what doesn't look exactly like us. And that's where I think there's just so much value. And I think also embracing discomfort. I really am disappointed that the word ignorant has become an insult. Jerome, I love you. I'm going to say you're ignorant about a lot of things.
I don't know.
That's right. There's a lot of things you don't know. Thank you. Me, I am ignorant of a lot of things because I have not lived every human being's experience. I can only know my own personal experience and then extrapolate to others. So we need to create opportunity for conversation, not judging conversation, not guarded conversation where I have to be self-righteous and politically correct and do everything like this. We need to have real trusting relationships where we can have those real conversations. We had a conversation just this past week where on Friday nights we do celebrates. So we have 2 networking breakouts. We talk about everything that we're celebrating for the week, everything we have coming up that's great for the week. And then I just open it up at the end of the night. Now, at the end of the night, anything could happen. I could have somebody who's a writer in addition to whatever business they lead, and they'll do a reading. I'll have somebody who's a singer and they'll sing. I'll have somebody, whatever it is. And so I never know what's going to happen, Jerome. It's the greatest. And I always just say, look, I'm here until the last person is hurt. I'm here for you. I'll stay as long as you need me to on a Friday night. And so this past Friday, I have a leader in the group who's absolutely phenomenal. Her journey is incredible. And she happens to be a DEI leader. And so we had this whole conversation about race, and just an incredible conversation of different questions, different experiences, completely impromptu. And, and it was amazing. And were there uncomfortable moments? Absolutely. With the framing of, this is really, really, truly seeking understanding and sharing with each other. And how do we manage this through our businesses? And how do we make sure we're delivering on what we intend in terms of where our values are versus what ends up happening as a sort of subconscious societal acceptance. And as business leaders, we have a great deal of influence over what's considered acceptable and how people will behave in our environments.
So I was listening to something, I can't remember, it was probably a podcast, and they were basically saying that tolerance or acceptance is a war that's waged in words. And you have to be able to communicate the idea in a way that people can consume it so that it becomes palatable, so that change can actually be made. And I think that's similar to what you just offered to us.
I think it is. It's interesting, one of I already said my favorite word, propinquity. Just it's all about proximity and the relationships you form because of your physical closeness. But my other favorite word, because of its meaning, is grace. And grace and understanding and support, sadly lacking in so many ways, and that vitriolic discourse that we can frequently see in media or social media, how does that contribute to making the world a better place? And at the end of the day, don't we want to leave it better for other generations? And I think that there's an importance in just the fundamental connectivity. It's very hard to make assumptions about somebody when you see their heart through somebody else. And so when we look at intolerance, it's frequently ignorance couched in anger and fear and all kinds of things like that. So my goal is, how do we create that opportunity? And again, that enmeshment. If I trust you, Jerome, then I'm far more likely to say, well, someone Jerome trusts, I would trust, right? And I could probably trust that person much faster than if I didn't know them at all through anybody that I trusted. So, if we create that enmeshment, that opportunity to really understand others, then we create an opportunity to change that dynamic completely. And in business, and this is where, it's not just it's the right thing to do, whatever. I do believe it's the right thing to do, by the way. However, in business, we have the opportunity to do that, to create really successful businesses. When people are engaged that way, when people are trusting each other, when they're creating great teams based on that trust and aligning on a mission, we do this successfully, and then all of these great things happen. There's no stopping that team. And guess what? The challenges that might be pointed out in terms of why everyone's different go away, because all I care about is you're delivering amazingly on something I can't deliver on to succeed in our mission. And the appreciation becomes far greater, and the connectivity of understanding each other. The word intolerance or tolerance becomes absurd, right? Because this is a teammate that you love and you want to see succeed, because that means we all succeed. And then that creates more opportunity and impact. And each person can bring something truly unique to the table to drive that success. And I don't care if you're an 80,000 employee organization or a 5-person employee organization, or you've got 1099s working with you as an independent. That is true.
Now, Your word choice, I think, is very deliberate. And so I'm going to probe a little bit.
Mhm,
So you said the word love and you
mhm.
said teammate. A lot of people go to the word family. You didn't do that. Is there much behind that? As I think there is?
So here's the thing for me with that. And I think it's so interesting how people use that terminology. So I appreciate you pointing it out. Um, Teammate, I think, is really important because when you're on a mission, each person has what they need to deliver that's unique to them. And so it doesn't matter whether they're the highest ranking person or in business, the highest level in terms of approval or paying the salaries or whatever it is, or the lowest person on that totem pole. If every single person isn't delivering, you lose. So I'm a teammate, you know, and to act otherwise is truly limiting in terms of how much success you can have with your organization. Love I use intentionally because I do believe we need to care about others, and that is something that matters. And so again, to act like in business that doesn't matter is ridiculous. The fact that I actually have true caring, which is a form of love, right, for my teammate means that I'm not going to let them die, right? I'm not going to let them fail. I'm going to help them out. They have to be home with their kids today. They have an emergency that they need to deal with. They're really struggling with delivering something on time for work or whatever it is. I'm going to be there helping them. I'm not just going to say, too bad for you, I'm out, right? So that's really important. Family, I do use. And family, I think, is important from the perspective of who's your chosen family. So we have our family that we we're born into, and we have those we choose in our life. And the fact of the matter is, we choose the people in our business life. That is absolutely a truth. So what does that mean? Now, there are family rules, right? So in my family, I have very specific family rules. Anybody comes to my home, the very first thing they hear, I don't care if they're, as long as they're cognizant, so not an infant, but I'm telling you, 2, 3 years old, I'm reading the family rules, or someone in my family is, through to, I don't care if you're 100 years old. Those are the family rules. And so a lot of times family gets used on, like, it's like a tug of war of, but I'm family. Yeah, okay, and there's still rules in this family, so I would use family, but very clearly with rules of engagement. So for C-suite, the rules are our principles: relevancy, reach, reciprocity, respect. Critical. If those rules aren't followed, you don't get to play in the family. That's just not going to be acceptable. So do we want you to fail? Never. Will we support you in succeeding? Absolutely. If you choose not to observe, you are making that choice. So I think, there's a lot of distinction, a lot of layers that I would put in there with the word family, which is why I didn't use it at first, Jerome.
I'm glad that you didn't use it. I think it's thrown around and then people have to make a tough decision and feel like they can't because it's family. Or
Mhm,
somebody feels like they can mistreat those around them because, oh, it's family. You
mhm.
understand. And I mean,
Yeah,
grace is important, but not when somebody's intentionally being a not so nice person. And so those
absolutely.
R's, I like alliterations. Give me the four: relevance, reach, reciprocity,
And respect.
and
So
respect.
relevancy in our business community, you don't just come and throw up what's important to you and not observe what's going on in the conversation, right? That's unacceptable. Reach, great people come from great people. So we really celebrate our leaders that bring other leaders into C-suite because they know who in their community makes sense and would be a fit and would be somebody that could lead in the C-suite. And then we have our reciprocity. So we don't do that whole thing of, well, don't ask, that would be a conflict. I always say that that's ridiculous, ludicrous, right? If you don't have an ask, you're not in business, and you certainly won't be for long. You have to have asks, right? The situation is, though, you also have to be giving. So when we introduce someone into the C-suite, we always say, who are you? What are you passionate about? What's your ask and what's your give? So we're already framing your introduction into that enculturation of, yes, you have an ask. Awesome. We want to support your success. And what's your give? And it's not give to the point of martyrdom. It's literally, what do you have to give, and make that healthy. And then respect, that's an R that we added. So I added that in after George Floyd's murder. So we've gone through the whole political election time. We started into COVID. Then we had George Floyd and a lot of uncertainty and so on. And I actually became an American citizen right at the time of George Floyd's death as well, by the way. So that was a whole other discovery for me in terms of who I am and my identity as a Canadian and an American citizen. So respect, I added as the fourth R because it is what a great community does. We give respect because of who we are. Trust is earned by the other person, but who we are is a respecting community that will give that. That's where we start. We give respect, and that's absolutely something we have to give to anybody, right? Trust is earned. So that's how the 4 R's came to be. And it means that I can hold a space in community. All of our leaders in C-suite can hold a space in community where there is that respect and a seeking of understanding versus judgment and silencing.
Wow. So Tricia, what are you most grateful for?
Oh my goodness. I am so grateful, period. I'm quite literally grateful for everything and every day. And I'm grateful that I can hold a space and create and continue to create and extend a platform where people are succeeding and they know that their life's energy, they're like everything they're doing with their businesses, and that is our personal lives, our business lives matters. And then it's having that impact. So I'm truly grateful every minute for being able to create and hold that space and see great people succeeding in business, faster, maybe a little easier, and with far greater impact. And the bigger we get, the more impact we have to keep fueling that. So I'm truly grateful for that. I'm truly grateful for all of the relationships that I have. My conditions of satisfaction in life are reaching for my great and helping everyone around me get to theirs. New challenges and new opportunities and things that, I can adventure, explore, those kinds of things. And then real connection in the everyday. And so I'm grateful that I have all of that in every day, no matter who I'm with or what kind of day it is, weekday, weekend, vacation day, work day, whatever. I have those conditions of satisfaction met in the everyday, and I'm probably most grateful for that.
Wow. Conditions of satisfaction. I've never heard that before. That's beautiful.
It's a very powerful tool. And when I came into the C-suite world, I was the first sponsor of C-suite Network. And then I came in and then I became a partner in the business. And conditions of satisfaction is a framework that C-suite has used since its founding. And the one piece that I've added on to it that I think is so critical as we think to what success looks like for each of us individually is that it has to be whatever your conditions of satisfaction are. You might have, 2, 3, 5, in that range. You don't want more than that. It gets a little overwhelming. You need to ensure that they're reachable any day, anywhere, and no matter who you're with. Because if you don't do that, you're essentially setting up your satisfaction in life to be variable depending on something you can't control.
Yeah. You put it in a place where you can't get to it, right? It's over there somewhere.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Instead of here in the core. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's wild. So what dream are you most focused on catching next?
Oh my goodness. So little dreams. My little dreams are, I have a book that I haven't finished because with COVID, I just completely set it aside. And I'm going to be doing a keynote in March where I need to have that book finished. So I've got to get it done. So that's my little, focus in addition to, other things I have on my to-do list. But big dreams. I am committed to the mission of what I'm doing here in C-suite to create that billion-dollar platform where the truth about the responsibility and the opportunity we have as business leaders to create really meaningful impact in our communities and succeed faster. I think a lot of times people just associate do the right thing and then somehow you lose money, right? Like the old fashioned idea of a non-for-profit or something. It's about how we create faster success because we actually truly are serving the communities that we're in business to serve. And so I'm ecstatic to see that continue to build out, that those relationships continue to extend, and the platform, we have education and networking, our media and distribution, our professional services, and our marketplace, that those continue to scale and be useful tools for great business leaders to succeed faster. And then eventually the C-suite becomes the Amazon of the B2B decision maker, that it's where everyone goes and those audiences that we serve to get the services and products they need and deliver the products and services that they have to sell. And again, we continue that larger scale impact, and what we should own up to in terms of being great business leaders.
Wow. Tricia, you are a dream catcher. Thank you so much for sharing that. I just love your spirit. The sincerity that just exudes from you, the desire to make sure that people are cared for, and the presence to hold people accountable when they say that they're going to do things is something that is usually not all packaged together. You usually got to go over here for this and there for that, but you got all of it. And I think it's why you're such a strong leader and why you attract so many people to you. So just thank you for being an example of what's possible.
Thank you so much, Jerome. And thank you for bringing me into your family. I'm so excited to be here with you because, this message and how we can truly connect and create opportunity together. It's so important because there's so much out there. We've all had that. Anybody who cares about what they're doing in the business that we're building, they're there. This is about real business, and it's just a justification for being an asshole. And no, let's hold that accountable. That's nonsense. That's being an asshole. That's not good business. That's not creating successful opportunity. That's being an asshole. I don't care. Again, small business, big business, anything in between, that's being an asshole. And we owe it to the success that we see, the success that we enjoy, to create great impact, great opportunity, and we will succeed bigger, faster because of it.
You guys heard it here, and ladies, you heard it here from Tricia, the girl that grew up on a farm and figure skated in Canada, who's bringing CEOs from across the world together so that they have a safe space to share, grow, and learn. Your dreams should be real. Until the next episode, we'll talk soon.
Thank you for joining the tribe today. We would love to hear from you. Please don't forget to rate, like, and share. Perhaps someone you know could benefit from what we've discussed. Until the next time, remember that your dreams should be real.